Hey, what's up, guys? Faith in the Strat. I want to show you guys how I took two of my best setups this week. One was going to be on Wednesday, and it was a short sale, and the other was going to be Friday. So coming into Wednesday, we actually had data overnight, or the day before on Tuesday, we had JPNY data. So when this candle broke, this candle created this news candle. So what I ended up doing was marking that one. And then we had a previous one from, I think it was CPI or PPI data, this one. So these are important levels because you have to understand wherever there's news, the market is going to push that candle to grab liquidity. This was also news. I forgot what day it was. But me knowing that, I kept this level on my screen. Now, another thing that helped me was I noticed since Asia range broke out so much, London's range stayed inside, which is rare for London to stay inside of Asia. So I knew if this range broke out and this is inside, this is literally a 3-1, 3-1 versus the sessions. New York's range opened up here, obviously. And, we started from here to here. This was the high. So really, realistically, that's like a 3-1-2 per the strat. 3-1-2, that starts to fail and turns into a 3-1-3. Now, coming into the session, I understood that around the timing window, I was expecting a high of day to get made. It just so happened that high of day lined up with my broad information. Now, coming into the high of day, I saw consolidation and the broad information. But what's really important is when I went to my basic chart, I could understand major highs and lows. So this green line was the low of the previous week, and I had another weekly low up here. But when I look at it, I see Friday we closed down here, right? And then our high of the week at the time was up here. So if I'm seeing my high of week up to here, and Monday, what happens? We open and we break up here. What's happening? Well, now we're triggering weekly time frame breakout buyers. You have to understand the market moves on different time frames, and every time a level is broken, you have different time frame participants engaging in the market. So me understanding that Monday broke the high, I was waiting to see if we continued or failed. What happened? We fell through this level, and then what we do? We consolidated. So when we consolidated, I realized price was in a box, and then not only was it in a box, but it was near the high of month. So we had a box that stayed near the high of month and high of week. This high of month, high of week box was also between Tuesday and Wednesday. 70% of highs and lows are put in on this day. So me seeing the week's high ran and fell through, and then seeing consolidation on highs and lows gave me a very, very high probability chance of a short setup, especially knowing that there was news that came. So once again, we go back to my news candle. And you can see this was at about 40.30. I had this marked on my chart. So now I have four different confluences. I understand there's trap volume up here. It hasn't trapped yet, but this is just sideways volume. I understand we're above the week, and I understand we're at the broad information. I also understood we were right near the previous day's high, so I have that marked. The moment we tapped into it, we rejected. That was around 7 o'clock PST. When we zoom in, you can actually see not only did we reject, we rejected aggressively. So once I started seeing these rejection wicks up here, I knew, especially around this news, that it was over. And sure enough, what also helped was all the major indexes started to show it. So Dow started to drop aggressively. I got filled around here towards the top. It's a little late. I forgot my exact fill, but I was able to hold it most of the day because I had targets that were much lower than the average person. So when I looked to the left, what did I see? I saw this level. I saw this liquidity. I saw this liquidity. I saw this external. So I knew once we took out this level, which we did fast, my next two levels were going to be here and here. And my main level was obviously going to be this news candle. When we zoom in, you can see we fell pretty much the whole day. And I think around the news candle, around lunch, where I offloaded most of my position. I didn't even waste any time with runners because this position I was able to size into because I had watched it for so long. So I didn't really need to push it any longer. This was a very, easy, get your money, 50, 40, 50 point drop. That was simple. I'm really focusing on setups like this where I take less trades and I just wait because this I can size into, which I've been posting more about. This setup is a very high probability setup, regardless of when you trade the strat, ICT, anything. Anybody with half a brain can see we're coming off highs. We just ran everything you think of, no matter what system. And then you see an aggressive candle. What else is going to happen? So when it's 90-10 is when I want to take advantage and be going in with a lot more size to make an outsized return. So that's what I've been focusing on, this whole week. So now coming into Friday, we had this low down here. And this low was actually the old level where I was aiming for to actually partial out my position the next day. So we come into Friday around here, and then actually let me pull up my chart that has all the kill zones. What I realized off of open, before we open, all Friday really started to do was make a giant box. This is all Friday was doing between, London and NY. Made this low, and this low was near that weekly level, and then we consolidated. So me seeing us consolidate sideways gave me the bias that we could potentially break out or break to the upside, especially because when I zoom, back to my other charts, what is this? Before I was just a giant, SIBI, giant FVG. So that made me biased that we're going to attempt to mitigate it. Now, another thing that could have helped you, because a lot of people kept shorting. You have to think, we ran like 100 points. When you look at this swing high, the swing low, where are we? If we were to go back in time. We're an extreme discount and there's been no market structure shift. So think about that. There needs to be a shift in structure before we short again. There was no major shift and there was this giant imbalance. I also just think, like me, I think in probabilities. How probable is it that the market is going to just keep going and then make another giant city like that? Which it can, but the probabilities is how I like to think. So understanding that we took all the money up here, delivered it down here, and we're starting to accumulate and we'll consolidate first, distribute out the profits and accumulate more positions. That gave me the bias that obviously we have upside. So I just continued to watch, was patient and watched the overnight action. Now, coming into the day, sorry about that, I'm trying to find levels. As we started to consolidate, I saw lows start to get ran. I saw this high as a target. And I also saw, when I looked at the actual day chart, I saw this high and low, this was the 50% level. So I was like, hey, I could aim for this 50%, but also this day at the time was opening as an inside bar. So since the day was inside, I speculated like, hey, if we open inside as we push up, this is going to be a 2-2 reversal right here per the strat. So I knew it was a 2 down, 2 up day. My targets could be obviously the high or an order block. For me, I like to have conservative targets, so I didn't aim for the tippy top, especially because I was getting in much earlier than with just the strat. Because as a stratter, I would have got in here, at 39.48. We come back to here. You can see all I did was measure the consolidation of this level. And I looked for this. This was the move that told it right here. Look at this. This is London, NY low. Look what happens. Also Asia low. What is all this? What is this? This is what? It stops. What it stops? Money is the moneyness of the market. So I see Asia, London, and NY setting up liquidity all right here, right? But you did get ran right here, but we still have that level. What do I think? I think that price is going to come back to retest that liquidity to move. And sure enough, what happens? Consolidates. We push up in the kill zone. Once we aggressively sold, what really helped me was I had been actually watching some of, I think it was Alex Options' old stuff, and he made a good point. Like once you see the draw on liquidity and an aggressive move against it, you should already be thinking that that could be the manipulated move. So I understood that this was just a manipulation. And I didn't even, to be honest, I don't know what ICT move it would be, but the moment we ran it, I literally just got in and I just put my risk at the lows because I was like, hey, this is a low risk trade. If I can get in below here, think about it. Risk to here, and I can have multiple targets, and that's the whole goal, which I actually was able to do. So you look back and you zoom out to like the 50 level, right? This is a 1 to 26 trade. Of course, I had higher targets. My main target was like somewhere over here near the order block, which I didn't hit. But even towards the end of the day, this was like a 1 to 30, 1 to 40 trade. So understanding the higher time frame thesis and understanding that this is all just a box where volume had accumulated. This is a box where volume accumulated. And here was your imbalance. It was your imbalance. Price is going to draw to what? Imbalances. So we pushed off and look, aggressively pushed off. And before this imbalance, I was already in. Once we touched this imbalance, and look, we didn't even come into the order block really. We barely like one ticked it. Boom. Aggressively pushed up. And guess what? This was like right around lunch. So I remember when we pushed up, we were floating, price was floating during lunch. So I had some positions open and I had closed some. But I was like, you know what? We're probably going to get a lunchtime reversal. And shout out to Young Soo. He posted a lunch profile reversal that really gave me confidence. So I was like, once he showed the chart, it made so much sense. All we did was sit sideways in lunch, build up lunchtime liquidity, to the ignorant or uninformed. This is the weak hands, building of weak hands to transfer to strong hands. What happens? We build this position, they come through, ran all this liquidity because to uninformed, or like ICT likes to call them neophytes, they're going to build a position here not understanding the timing window. So what we do, we ran these stops. Once again, I added heavily here because, like I said, I'm trying to focus, on sizing in on high probability setups. Because how often do you see consolidation go flat and fall? It's not like that. Normally, what happens, consolidation hits a high, and we're going to see some type of M pattern. So either 2022 or head and shoulders or M pattern or something like that. This was just flat. It looked more like accumulation to me. So accumulation of loans, run them, push them, drop them. And understanding ICT, I understood the very first leg you see up, you have one down and up, usually is a direction that price is going to continue to. So obviously this move was super aggressive, and that's how I was able to get that 800% plus trade. I really messed up because I was trying to sell other contracts and I messed up and sold the highest ones. But I was really proud of how I executed because as we were pushing up, I constantly was just adjusting stops and then closing all my positions from down here. So it was like a way I could safely take on more risk. So always think about the execution. Now, another thing I want to show y'all real quick is when you actually zoomed out, the simplest trade was right here. And we look, and this one blew my mind. If you go to a daily time frame, and that's why I tell you guys to look at the higher time frame with ICT, because that's what it's made for. There were two major things, PD array wise, that could have gave you that bias. We had this intermediate high, and understand ICT talks a lot about how price relates to intermediate highs. So definitely go back and watch some of his stuff on that. We also have this midnight open level, right? We had this low, technically get swept here, but look at this. What is this? What is this? That's our volume imbalance. Right there, boom. Imbalance volume, imbalance volume. We did it twice. So let's zoom in to a smaller time frame. You see volume imbalance that we ran through 2 different times. So now understanding that, and I didn't even catch that one until after. This is just from back testing a week. If I were to map that across, which I did on my screen, and have paid better attention, that would have gave me super confidence, and I could have got a much lower tick because I would have understood any reversal coming up is my opportunity, you know. So when we zoom in more, you see this is the volume imbalance and midnight open, right? So let's see if I ran all these stops through the volume imbalance and came up. Look at this. This position alone above the midnight open. This is a 1 to 21 realized. Even if I was aiming for the 50%, which is like a good target, that's a 13 R. And you know, that's before, but like now, like I said, the volume imbalance showed it. I could have just entered the moment the range, you know, came back through the volume imbalance, and you know, risk could have been honestly super tight because I could have just zoomed in and found a swing low now. I'm like, hey, we ran all these stops, and you know, use this 5-minute zone to get earlier and technically get a lot more points on the move. Just understanding. So this one, it's less risk to reward actually, but you know, you did get a lot more points, or you know, could have did something like, I don't know, midnight to one of these crazy swing lows. I'm always just thinking of like points and risk to reward. Regardless, understanding these, you could have gotten a lot of points on Friday very simply, like much easier than even what I did. You know, this was understanding that is literally like 66 points. Come on, 66 points on ES. That's crazy. So always, you know, use the higher time frame. That's going to help you a lot more. All right, you guys take care.